we have every right to know it.
Come out. Now call Deputy Shane Ross.
Thank you very much, Concola. I think, like every speaker, I share the desire for the banking inquiry to go wherever it feels the need to go. And I share the appetite for an unlimited number of questions and for frank answers. And I think that this bill certainly addresses, as we are told, a problem which the banking inquiry has come across, in that it has hit a brick wall when it's looking for certain information. And in that sense, yes, I think that the bill should be supported, because if there were a brick wall when they're looking for information which is vital to their conclusions, sure, let's have it. And let's open those doors to the banking inquiry. But I am very suspicious, I suppose, when I find that there is going to be some sort of a conspiracy, that information should only go as far as the banking inquiry. That the people who are going to find out this information cannot share it with us, cannot share it with the general public, but have to keep it to themselves. And how that affects their ultimate conclusions. Because how are we to reassure the public that the banking inquiry has credibility, about which there are, of course, a large number of question marks at the moment, has credibility, and is coming to conclusions which are also equally credible, if we don't know the basis upon which these conclusions have been reached? And maybe the Minister can enlighten me on this, but it seems to me that what's going to happen here is they're going to ask some very pertinent questions to God knows who. We don't know who they're going to ask them to at the moment, but they're going to ask some very pertinent questions. They're going to get answers to those questions behind closed doors, and they're then going to reach conclusions as a result of those questions. The conclusions they're going to share with us, presumably, but they're not going to share the evidence with us. And if we don't see the evidence on which they base those conclusions, they have absolutely no credibility whatsoever. And I cannot say that I would trust, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I would trust anybody to reach conclusions of such import as this inquiry is going to reach, if they're not going to show me the evidence on which they base those conclusions. And the idea that this banking inquiry is somehow going to operate in a very important way in secret means that it removes some of the pillars of credibility which it's been given by some of its activities and by some of its proponents. And what I would have thought would be this: yeah, introduce this act, of course, let the information out, but let us all share it. Let the whole lot out, let it out in the public, because the idea that now we're going to compromise the TDs involved by asking them to keep it a secret is, I think, discredits it as well. It also makes it look like, and I may well be wrong, only time will tell, it makes it look like there is some sort of conspiracy to protect certain people from information coming out about them. And I echo what Deputy Boyd Barrett says. I don't see there's any reason for letting small depositors' activities in current accounts or deposit accounts out. But I can't see where there would be any need for that. I doubt if that's the information they'll be looking for. And I may be wrong, but it seems to me that the information they'll be looking for here will be information about the big players in this crisis, which we suffered for so many years. And it seems to me that what is so important here is that that is exactly the information which should be shared with the public. That information should be shared with the public, because the public is entitled to know what the bankers were up to at that period, what the developers were doing at that period, and what other big players were doing at that period, because it's material. And I think it would look like that the information being sought, particularly from the central bank, is not being is not being revealed because those people, for some reason, under an act of 1942 or whatever it was being protected. And I think it also begs the question, the additional question, this: is it really correct that politicians should be carrying out this inquiry? That we're asking politicians to keep secrets when they are answerable to the public. We're asking politicians to be compromised when they're answerable to the public. Our job, and the job of those who are part of the banking inquiry, is to expose what happened to the public in the most open possible way. And if politicians are asked to be part of that conspiracy, they're doing the body politic a disfavour as well. And everybody, I suppose, in this House knows the politicians are not the most discreet with confidential information. Everybody knows that anything that comes to politicians leaks, or to a certain number of politicians, whether there are penalties or not. It gets out. So to be imposing fines or penalties or absence from the House for that is irrelevant and absurd. Because the information that we're trying, or pretending to try, to keep confidential is undoubtedly going to leak out to the press sooner or later. You only had to look at, as an example, a document which came to the PAC, of which the Minister and I were both members at one period of time, which was highly sensitive, and which we were all told should not appear anywhere recently. And I'm talking about the people who were wrongly named in the Ansbacher case in this account, to see that that was only released for about half an hour, and it was all over the media and the webs, and it was in the newspapers the next day. Politicians don't keep secrets. So to be imposing some sort of cosmetic penalties on them, which is apparently going to happen in this bill, will not be effective. It's only a fig leaf. It would be better if the information was readily available, it came out in its raw form, and didn't come out, which it undoubtedly will, in a spun way, which will probably affect the inquiry more adversely than if it were actually to be released initially.
Thank you. Good, Margaret. Now we call on deputies.